The mentality of sacrifice is not a mentality of sorrow. The life of giving is not an empty life. I'm not writing about sacrifice because I think that moms as a whole are not run down enough, or tired enough, or working hard enough. I write about it because it is the first step to encouragement, to clearing your mind, to being fulfilled. Scripture is very clear in this. If you seek to be full, give. The verse about the first being last and the last being first is not talking about how all the winners will be losers at the end. As though life were a foot race, and at the end, a little surprise switcheroo happens. The officials declare, actually, this was not about being first. We just wanted to see who was the slowest and give them the prize. Rather, this verse is talking about those who seek their own interests first. Those who put themselves above others will be the last. Those who value themselves the least will be the most valued. There isn't any way to do this other than the hard way. Giving with a lot of enthusiasm for watching yourself in the mirror isn't really giving. It is just watching yourself. Sacrifice isn't really sacrifice if it involves only doing what you want. The point I want to make is that this is not my tricky innovation. It is a principle of Christian living. It is easy for us to mishear and to be offended by this kind of talk, because it is not the way the world thinks. Most of us grew up in a culture that despises this kind of thinking, and it may not come naturally to us, but we need to have the language of Scripture to find our way of thinking, and not truisms from the world. Many of us might hear, sacrifice for your children every day, and immediately think, but who is looking out for me? I have needs. Let's consider a sampling of verses from the Scripture that pertain to giving ourselves. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your lap. For with the same measure that you measure, it shall be measured to you again. Luke 6:38. This is my commandment, that ye love one another, as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. John 15:12-15. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man to his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Philippians 2:3-4. There is that scatters and yet increases, and there is that withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty. Proverbs 11:24. The more we are steeped in the language of the Bible, the more we will recognize when things from the world are slipping in. When you find yourself getting stuck in a needing mentality, you will look for ways to give. And you won't look for ways to give just because you have to, and it is a terrible Christian duty. It is our duty. But when we faithfully obey as unto the Lord, we are given great joy, great satisfaction, and great fulfillment in the task. When you empty yourself for others, God fills you up, but not so you can suddenly retire with your little packet of joy. God gives to us that we may give. We give, He gives us more, with which to give more. It is not a cycle that will stop as soon as our kids turn 18. This is God's pattern for the life of believers, whether or not they have children. This is how He wants us to be as people, not just as mothers. Excerpt from Fit to Burst by Rachel Jankovic.
Welcome back to Bright Hearth. I always give Lexi a hard time because she's always tasked with reading these cold opens in our dim bedroom. And that was a long one, but man, I think so good. I love that book. You should pick that one up from Canon Press if you haven't already. Fit to Burst. I think the subtitle, Abundance, Mayhem, and the Joys of Motherhood.
That's when she only had 5 kids at that point. Now she's pregnant with what, number 8?
Wow.
I think she's pregnant with number 8.
Great book. We read some of, I think, Fit to Burst, and we also read Loving the Little Years pretty regularly.
I've been reading every one of their parenting books literally on repeat this year.
Yeah.
I've read Standing on the Promises multiple times. I'm rereading through hers again.
Just great insight from people who are on the ground doing it. So make sure you pick that up from Canon Press if you haven't already. They're not sponsoring the show or anything, but we'll stick a link into the description so you can grab that little book if you haven't already read it. It's just a great encouragement and a great, for dads. I like reading these books that are by mothers talking about motherhood because they're helpful in understanding some of the challenges that my wife deals with and how I can be an encouragement to her. In this episode of Bright Hearth, we are talking about one of the challenges, one of the opportunities that you have as a homemaker in recovering the lost arts and disciplines of homemaking and the productive Christian household, and that is hospitality in the kitchen. And when we say that, you might actually think we're talking about something else that we are going to take up in an episode or two related to the kitchen, but we're actually not talking about hospitality in the normal sense of, you use the kitchen to cook food and invite people over and exercise hospitality. We will talk about that. But what we mean in this episode specifically, when we say hospitality in the kitchen, is maintaining an attitude and a spirit of hospitality to your people while you are doing the work that goes on in the kitchen. And is that an issue that you face, Lexy? Ever?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
There's lots of people that want to be in the kitchen doing lots of things with me. I want it to be a happy place for them. We specifically built our kitchen to be pretty open so that it was kind of the center for cultural gravity in our home. And that means I have to get the grace to include them.
Yes.
When I might not feel up to it.
We put a 13-foot countertop that looks into the kitchen and that has stools along it where I had envisioned where the children could sit and color and just look in as you made me cinnamon rolls and bacon and steaks and other delicious treats.
Turns out they love sitting on the counter.
And what they do instead is they come in the kitchen and they try to build Legos under Lexi's feet while she's cooking and see how many tripping hazards they can put while she's handling hot pans and pots and skillets. So hospitality in the kitchen, this is one of those issues where as soon as you take up any duty that the Lord has given you, you'll find that some of the challenges that you face there are the same challenges you face everywhere in your life, which is not getting so task-oriented that you end up making it about the task and not about the people that the task is supposed to serve in the first place.
Correct. Yeah. Most of this, the reason it's stressful is you're trying to slow down to find time to teach them to actually do the skills they're supposed to be helping with. So
yes.
So you're already spending a lot of time in the kitchen if you enjoy cooking from scratch. And then in addition to that, you're trying to figure out how to carve out time to teach them skills that aren't necessarily productive in the sense of ending in a dinner for everybody. Yeah. So yeah, that can be tricky.
So let's talk about some of the challenges. We're going to talk about hospitality, kitchen hospitality here, really with three groups, with how it pertains to children, husbands, number 2, and then finally other guests in the kitchen. And we can even talk about...
We almost might want to do another episode just on, literally just on hospitality.
Oh yeah, we will. We definitely will. Lord willing, we'll do that. And then at the end, we'll talk about some common enemies, weeds you'll have to pull here. So first, let's talk about the flock of stools. Let's talk about the gaggle, the herd of chairs that gallops across the floor anytime you begin to do some work in the kitchen, and talk about hospitality to children in the kitchen. So first, Lexy, maybe it would be helpful to just sort of frame what is the challenge? What is the challenge when it comes to hospitality in the kitchen with respect to your children?
The kids, yeah.
Yeah, with the kids, and how should we be thinking about that? How can we handle it? How can we balance, actually you do have to put food on the table, right? And saying no, or, how are you thinking about that? What are some challenges and tips that you can give?
So anybody, which is actually a lot of people at this point, but anybody who has ever cooked with me knows I'm not the most organized.
What?
No. I resolved this year to clean as I go when I'm cooking, and I don't know if I made much of a dent in that habit. But anyways, part of the reason is because I was determined when we had kids that they were going to be in the kitchen with me. I didn't care what kind of mess it took. And that really is part, like how you have the windowsills that have been eaten that you are not going to fix. I have the messy kitchen because I knew that I was going to be the opposite, where I didn't want there to be any mess. I didn't want there to be flour anywhere, all that. So I think it's important for you to settle in your heart, like really what is more important for us and we hope for other Christians. We're trying to pass down these skills to both our sons and our daughters. And to be honest, I want them to have a realistic picture of home cooked food, because I think a lot of us don't have a realistic picture of how much work it takes.
Yeah.
You know?
And some of that unrealism is connected to our digital lives. And the way that the way that media shapes our expectations, I think, around what it looks like to make a glorious feast for people. It's like usually what you see is this perfectly manicured table. Nobody's pulling on the tablecloth. Yeah. Nobody's spilling the flour. It's just a perfect meal laid out.
Or like
there's shiplap everywhere.
kitchens where all the sous chefs are quietly doing their duties, not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
It's all stainless steel, beautiful, wiped down. Like that's also not really.
This is a challenge for my personality.
Yeah, you're much more.
I'm je suis français. I'm French, so I'm not really from France.
But this weird thing happens that like when you go in the kitchen to cook, everyone just naturally leaves you alone. If I'm in the
different,
kitchen,
You're
not
the
how
mother.
It is.
You're the
That's not how it
vine.
is.
You're the fruitful vine.
I get it.
The children are. But when I'm in
bad.
the kitchen, I believe in something called mise en place, which means putting in place in French, and it is this French cooking ideal where before you begin, you've put all your pre-measured ingredients into little cups, and you're like ready to go.
I'm just
you're
thinking
cleaning
of
as you
all
go.
the extra dishes you're creating.
And then, but here's the thing, dear listener, I'm a do the dishes as you go kind of guy. Wipe it down.
We should really film an in the kitchen when you and I are both trying to cook in the kitchen. That'd be kind of fun.
Again, file this under your we sin regularly and have to deal with there's something about the flesh that is brought to the surface by. I think what it is when you know what you're trying to accomplish is important, and it's not like a meaningless thing. It's not just recreation. I'm trying to feed these people. I'm trying to serve them, and yet they are seeming to try to get in the way and frustrate you're actually serving them. I think that's part of the temptation of not being hospitable to children in the kitchen, because they're it can almost seem like they're trying to frustrate you in serving them.
Just to be clear, we don't actually fight in the kitchen.
No, we don't
Rarely.
fight in the kitchen. No, we don't. But it's it's just, I think like any place where you're doing duties, it's like a place where temptation is always going to be,
that's true.
close to the surface. Because you're doing real work there. You're not, you're not lounging or recreating. Sin is close to the surface when you're working hard.
Yeah, and there are times where I have delineated with the kids, I do invite them in regularly to help with me, but if I am in a time crunch, I just try to politely say, typically mommy likes you here with me, but right now I just need to be able to do all the pouring, all the mixing.
Yeah.
We're on a time crunch, and so I feel like they know that I really do let them help a lot.
Yeah.
And so because of that, when mommy really says no, they know it's for real. So
yeah, they know you're not just being rude or withholding.
Yeah. And I also try to say, if they want to cook something, like Daphne, oh man, she has become a little. Did you see her cleaning the sink tonight after
dishes.
you cleaned the sink?
She does the dishes. Dear listeners, she does the dishes by climbing onto the counter, kneeling over the sink, and she does a decent, I'm not criticizing. It's a good instinct. We want to encourage her in it.
She's been doing it
She'll
a lot.
pile the dry dishes on the little drying towel on one side, and sometimes I'm like, that is Mount Everest. That is
she
precarious.
probably does dishes for an hour during the day, and even that is an example of I'm not going to freak out about the water.
No.
I'm not going to freak out about the water going down the drain not being used efficiently, and I'm not going to freak out about the water on the counter. I think sometimes, I don't know, just feed your children's, no pun intended, feed their creativity in the kitchen so that they're not always if I am always stressed at dinner time and I can't ever have them help, what about 9:30 in the morning when they say, hey, can we make chocolate cookies? Do you have time then? Be willing to say yes to their food projects. And even having just some kid friendly tools.
Yeah.
And books. I know when Ari first learned how to read, I got him I think it's Molly Katzen. It's the gal that wrote Moosewood Cookbook. I think it's Molly Katzen. She has 2 cookbooks for kids, and it's just perfect because it's written simple enough that they can actually understand, and they're real recipes with real food. So our son has been able to make some recipes out of there for several years now, and now Ira's starting to go through it. And Ari, for Christmas this last year, he's really into science, and so America's Test Kitchen has like a science cookbook that he got that's like funky foods and stuff. So just think about ways to like build their independence, but that's age appropriate, and that also makes it so you still have to, you have to be helping them make all of this happen.
Yeah, is it Pretend Soup and Other Real Recipes?
Yeah, and there's
then Moosewood Cookbook.
Yeah, and
Molly Katzen.
What is that one? Salad.
Yeah, Molly Katzen's Recipes Salad. So Katzen is the author's last name. Those are fun because they're designed so that a new reader and also a kid who doesn't have like knife skills can go in the kitchen and actually prepare like a lemonade recipe. And man, Ari loved that. I mean, he really did.
He loves cooking still.
And the problem is, if you're not practicing kitchen hospitality towards your children, you will view that as a nuisance instead of as a blessing, where you're saying,
like, teaching them,
wow, I have children that actually are interested in this very important work of feeding people. And what's the end goal we're trying to make with our children? Well, we're trying to grow them into men and women who know how to navigate a kitchen, who, where our daughters are interested and have cultivated skills by the time they leave our home. I hope our daughters are, very capable cooks, and I hope our sons grow up and they know how to make some staple dishes, and they know how to help in the kitchen and sharpen knives and
I'm fine with them doing, like, the boys do not have to stand in the kitchen all day and cook with me, but they're both very interested.
They want to.
They want to be, but I also understand there will become a time when they probably won't want to, and that's
true.
That's okay. But I mean, I've talked to the boys about how, when you get married and your wife's on bed rest, I mean, when I was on bed rest, you were cooking all the time.
I can't cook a lot of things, but but what I can cook well enough that I'm not ashamed to put it in front of my wife.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is if a dad is cooking for the family, it's probably because mom is sick. And if mom is sick, you don't necessarily want to be relying on Chick-fil-A all the time. Yeah. Like, you're caring for a sick person at that point. So,
and some of our sons, and I don't just mean ours, but like listeners, some of our sons in the church are going to grow up to be chefs. They're going to grow up to start food businesses.
Exactly.
And the business of feeding people, it certainly is an art and discipline of homemaking, and it is very much something that ought to be in the wheelhouse of our daughters as they grow in preparation for being homemakers, but our sons as well. I mean, some of the greatest cooks and chefs in the world are men who are cooking for hundreds and thousands of people, and
I think
so these skills are very important universally.
When we as a family started recovering like more food production at home between meat and vegetables and long-term preservation, you had to start helping me more. Yeah. Because it just is more physically and manually intensive than something else. Yeah. So yeah, I think the only reason we think it's weird that men aren't in the kitchen as much is because we can rely on a factory to preserve it all for us,
Right, exactly.
So
yeah. Yeah. So with your children, I think some high-level points that we'd want to communicate here would be, when you hear the flock of chairs, and if you don't know what I mean, let me explain what I'm describing here. You start a cooking project, Lexi gets the pans out, dinner preparations are underway. In our house, and we've heard this in many other houses, the immediate sound you hear is the sound of dining table chairs and bar stools grinding and squeaking their way across the floor as little 2 to 4 foot tall people push and drag them with all of their might across the house so that they can set it up next to mom, climb up on top of it, and be at counter level and be involved.
Yep.
And that sound,
it won't be there one day.
I know. And that's the thing is, like, I do remember how much it used to annoy me. And now, man, I just look at our kids in the kitchen. I hear them fussing a boot and not fussing, but I mean, like, and it just gives me such joy to see.
It gives me joy when Daphne can tell you what a roux is and how one goes about
how does one
it.
prepare a roux. Why are they important? And when I see little Winnie, like tonight, Lexi actually put this on our Bright Hearth Instagram live, I think, but or whatever those things are, stories. I don't manage our Instagram, so I don't know how they work. But I'm trying to do the dishes. Lexi's cleaning up the table after dinner, and little Winnie has just mastered. She's gone from the belly crawl to the hands and knees crawl, which is like 50 times faster. She loves when the dishwasher door is open to come and like put her whole weight on the door. And as the son of an engineer, I know that shock and vibration are the enemies of mechanical systems. So I'm like, this hinge is probably not rated for her weight. It's going to break. I'm going to have to replace it. It's going to be $600. Everything is $600 when it breaks, by the way, to $2,000. So what I do is, as soon as she gets to the door, I pick her up. I walk her to the other end of the house, and I just set her down, and then I hustle back to the sink.
We started all over
and
again.
See how many dishes I can do before she gets back to the door.
Well, and that's okay, right there. That's a perfect example of when you give a child a no, you need to find them a yes.
Exactly.
And you're not getting frustrated. You're not sitting there like kicking at her with your foot. Winnie, why can't you just get out of here? You're saying, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I need to do, but I'm going to figure out a way to include her in a fun way.
Yes.
You are the responsible adult. It is literally your job to figure that out. It's not your job to be fussing there.
Yeah.
So you're figuring it out, and you're being mature about it, and you're still having fun with your kid.
And as they grow, when he's 1, as they grow, when little Cyril's in his 2s, when he starts doing something that I think, maybe it's not just like you're going to hurt the dishwasher. You can't play with knives. I'm going to tell him sternly, no, you may not do that. And we're going to discipline him and make sure he obeys mommy and daddy. But we're going to try to be with the grain as we include, I think what you're saying is you don't want it to be to steal Doug Wilson's phrase, you don't want it to be a garden of no. The Garden of Eden is a garden of yes with one no. And so we're trying to give our children, hospitality means understanding their nature, stooping down, condescending to their level, thinking, what would give me joy as a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5-year-old boy or girl when mommy's cooking in the kitchen and I want to be involved? And it's not a scolding and you get out of here, you leave me alone. Mommy's doing important work. I got to feed you.
Yeah, I think that's the problem is most people are not thinking what would give them joy. They're just thinking this is too hard, so I'll do it some other time when they're in bed.
Yep.
And then what ends up happening is like they're so tired because they're spending all of what could be their free time where they're like growing and learning a new skill. They're just spending it catching up perpetually because they refuse to get creative and get the grace and the wisdom for including their kids just in regular life.
Yes, indeed. So children, we're going to include them with categories of discipline still and categories of, nope, mommy needs to get this done. Yeah, I can't have help this time. Next time, hopefully you'll be able to lick the batter and lick the whisk. Well, sometimes the batter. Dip a finger in, give a taste, and sometimes it's no. And our children will learn to navigate that more easily if we are giving them a yes.
We're generous, yeah.
If we're generous with our time. A lot of this as well, I think, Lexi, is that this can just be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of homemakers. Is that what we're talking about to do it well actually requires discipline, forethought. You can't be sluggard. You have to be, because if you're constantly frantic and behind and you're always going to be short with people because you're always going to be playing catch up. You'll never have time.
I didn't think about it like that.
So talk about that. Like, I think organization is, we're going to talk more about this in like more granular level. Yeah. Later, not in this show, but later in the season.
Office. Yeah.
But there is this, I think it's related, is that you just will, this is true in pastoral ministry. This is true everywhere. You will have a hard time being kind and being Christ-like and bearing the fruits of the Spirit if, because you are lazy, you're always behind.
Yeah, and not to say that being more organized will make your life easier or less busy, because that's certainly not true. You're just going to be more prepared for the balls that are being thrown at you. That's the only difference. It's not going to necessarily make anything easy. So, like for me, when it comes to this, I every night have an index card that I fill out for the next day. And so people use it really differently. But for me, because I do always want to stay on top of food, and because I started this when we first started homeschooling, and it would stress me out if I didn't know what dinner was at the end of a homeschool day, every night the night before, I just pick breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And part of it, because I do prepare food traditionally a lot, it usually means I'm needing to get a lot of things soaked the night before, or breads made the night before so they can ferment. And that really does help. I feel like a traditional style of cooking helps you stay more prepared.
Yeah, because it's slow. A lot
Yeah,
of it.
it's slower. But the cool thing about that is that when I wake up in the morning, I know which of my cooking tasks I can give to who based on their skill level. Or I know already, like, what did we have tonight? Oh, yeah, we had meatballs. We had meatballs tonight for dinner. So Daphne knew that at some point she could help me mix up the meat. And it wasn't like stressful. I wasn't doing that at 5 o'clock. I literally did that probably at 9 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
And she knew that we were freezing part of the batch and that we were going to cook part of the batch for dinner. And then that later we were going to saute some cabbage. So I do think it can be more helpful to actually have a game plan the day before. And like the boys, they're going to go to bed here soon. Both of the boys know how to get oatmeal ready for the next morning and to put a little apple cider vinegar in there. And so, just you being prepared to serve others, it just makes everything a little bit easier and more fulfilling for you because you can be more present and you're not distracted.
Yeah. When you organize, you start at the most important and work your way down. When you organize your attitude, as Misty Winkler says, and then you organize your priorities, your tasks, you organize the duties that you have before you ahead of time, man, it just makes it so much easier to not sin it up or not be behind and end up failing at the duties that you have before you. So, all right, so that is hospitality in the kitchen towards children, which is going to be a big part. I mean, that's the day-to-day for many of you listening.
All day.
That's the all-day thing.
Yeah.
So the next category, like we said at the beginning, is hospitality in the kitchen towards husbands. This is obviously going to be a little bit different because your husband is not dragging a stool into the kitchen, demanding to whisk the batter, or like he's not, ooh, can I help make the sauce? Maybe your husband likes to cook and to be involved, but it's going to be different. What we're talking about here is more making sure that the way that the duties in the kitchen are unfolding and the way that you're cooking for people is that you are loving your husband, knowing your husband. So what are some of the issues here, Lexi, related to hospitality in the kitchen?
Do you mean like
for husbands?
pitfalls?
Yeah, just what are some issues related to it? Like what are you thinking about on this category? What are some things that you try to do and I guess it's towards me, to be hospitable towards me?
I mean, I think the main thing is understanding what kind of food men like. And I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to be like, well, my husband loves spinach salads. Okay, that's weird. If that's the case, that's weird.
Great. Make him spinach salads to the glory of God.
But most men aren't like that. So, and just something I think most women need to be mindful is we've already talked about this before, but most diet fads out there are not necessarily mindful of men. They're not healthy for men and they're not healthy for women in some ways. So, if you are not cooking food that your husband likes on a regular basis, you're probably caught up in some sort of a temptation or sin, like you've already said, Brian, either because you're being fearful, you're being controlling, like there's a whole lot of reasons. But like, get out your cookbooks, ask him what his favorites are, get those ones he doesn't like off of there. I've done this 2 different times in our marriage. The first time I did it was at an older lady's recommendation. I think it was like our 2nd year of marriage. And she's like, well, just figure out what he really likes. And that's really helpful. And maybe like as you go about increasing your cooking skills, like your husband understands, hey, I'm trying to find food you actually like. They're not all going to be winners. They're not all going to be out of the ballpark, but I am actually cooking for you. I'm trying to cook for you. Like he is your audience essentially. Yeah. So if you're not pleasing him, that's kind of lame for you because it means you're not doing your job very well. I mean, sure, you might be super duper healthy, but you're not doing your job well. Yeah,
you have to, I think and this pertains to children as well, but it's kind of one of the common pitfalls, I think, for wives, homemaking, cooking in the kitchen is just to start to only factor in the single variable of like the health of the food.
Yeah. And, quote unquote.
Right.
Health.
Quote. And we have more to say on that, I think, in the kitchen before we leave this. We're going to be in the kitchen for a few episodes. So we'll talk more about quote unquote health food. Right. But the temptation is I'm going to think about the health of my family just in terms of calories and nutrient density and whether it's like, you're on some fad like keto, or you're like on some, so a vegan diet, or even something good like nourishing traditions. And let's say your husband and your children love some dish that you used to make before you discovered nourishing traditions, and it doesn't fit in the nourishing traditions playbook. And they're still like, we loved it, Mom, when you made the hamburger helper. And you're like, well, I've made a nourishing traditions alternative hamburger helper. And they're like, it's not good, Mom. It's not good. Make us the OG. Put the Velveeta in it. Put the, I know. See, it hurts her. But
no, you didn't like the Velveeta either.
I don't really
I've
like
made
Velveeta.
It once and it was disgusting.
Yeah, I actually like nourishing traditions, but I'm trying to pick something realistic.
I know. I
here.
understand what you're saying. I would probably say more like when Dad wants to take kids out for donuts.
Exactly. Good example. And mom's not gonna. Hopefully homemakers, you don't pitch a fit and either be passive aggressive and say, "Fine, let's go get donuts." And then you're just going to be a storm cloud in the donut shop. Yeah. And do you want a donut, babe? No, I do not want a donut. Do you know what the oils that are used to fry donuts? Oh, my word. It took 15 years off of your life. You're going to die. And he's like, well, maybe I will to get away from the rain cloud here. I could eat donuts and die. Like, that would get me out of this quicker. Go to heaven. You don't want to make a life that your husband or your children or anybody is trying to die to escape from, I think is the point.
Something I have done, though, which I think is a totally valid option while you're still going to Krispy Kreme, you better be working on getting really good at making donuts at home then.
Yeah, then you go, oh, maybe I can make some good donuts. Yeah, exactly.
Like, so anyways.
It's more about the attitude,
funny.
like, I will serve.
I think you're funny.
Thanks, babe. And let me give you an illustration of like a real challenge here that and Lexi's done first of all, Lexi's done a great job of, I regularly get handed cookbooks and look through them, and if there's no picture on the recipe, I don't even care about it. But I look through the ones with pictures like a child, and I just say, I want you to make page 72, 63, and whatever, 104. And she does. And if I say I don't like a meal, she basically doesn't make it, And we've had this wrinkle where in 2020, I got the illness that ground the world to a halt. And, one of the symptoms was losing taste and smell, and that hit people differently. Well, one of the longer term symptoms that affects a certain percentage of people who've had COVID is called parosmia. And it was more rare before COVID. It was a thing with some other illnesses. And it's basically brain damage. It's like the virus has attacked some part of your brain or your sense of smell and taste in that system, and it's kind of wreaked havoc on it. Mm-hmm. And when I first started looking into it and finally found a name for it, it was like it can take 6 weeks to 9 months. Well, guys, it's been over a year now. It's been well
like
over
a year and a half, probably
18 months at least, since I've had this parosmia that has made certain things smell absolutely horrible to me permanently. Things that I used to love, like peanut butter as an example. Peanut butter tastes absolutely disgusting to me now. And I used to be able to sit down and eat spoonfuls of it. Chocolate tastes horrible to me for the most part.
So here I am,
a
decade into marriage, and my husband likes maybe less than 20% of what I cook.
It's very frustrating to both of us.
It was very discouraging at first, especially when you were actually physically sick a lot of the times from it. It would make you physically very sick.
Yeah.
It's not that bad anymore, but I've had to it's been humbling. I've had to relearn to cook.
And it's not her. Like, this was what was so frustrating about it, is that Lexi would make these beautiful meals that I know I liked.
Yeah, it was really weird.
That we all loved. And I not just thought were good, but like I loved some of these meals. And now, I mean, they make me sick to eat. And it's so demoralizing. So I think we've both had to try, like I've had to try to not fuss, which is, it's a temptation. Like, it sounds silly, but food is such a big part of life that when all of a sudden, it's hard to actually, and the things that tasted the most normal to me, unfortunately, are like white flour and sugar. Mm-hmm. So we've had to work to like figure out what to eat, but Lexi's been a champ. She's always trying to make me
figured
food
out stuff that's
that I
been
like.
helpful for you and different. Yeah. Anyways, not to keep going on about
But
this.
it's a real challenge.
But
Like you're
we are
have
trying
this.
to figure this out still, even still.
You know, if you're in, and nobody should be, you know, irascibly picky. Nobody should be like a turd about it. Husbands genuinely should not be like food critics in the home where they're like always impossible to please. I give this 2 stars, whatever. You should not be like that. It's no excuse to sin.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about in the course of normal husband, normal Christian Christian wife. It is a genuine pitfall sometimes for a wife to struggle with hospitality towards her husband because of some ideal that she's pursuing, where she ends up, the proverb that says it'd be better to live on the corner of your roof than with a quarrelsome woman, or it's better a feast of herbs with laughter than a feast with bitterness. This is one of those things. Like, it's hard to swallow sometimes when you care deeply about good things like food quality and ingredients and nutrition. When you're like, your kids just want, and your husband just really deeply wants some dish that you don't want to prepare because of your ideals.
I think what could be helpful for some wives too, when I think about this, is, do you have rhythms of feasting and fasting? Father Capon in his book talks about how the Bible kind of makes this expectation that Christians will be both feasting and fasting. And so he's not saying like you need to be fasting 6 days a week. More of what he means is we have plain food sometimes, and then we have feasting food sometimes. Yeah. And so what can be helpful, there's 2 different things that I have found to be helpful, is that during the week when we are busy, I can cut myself some slack in having more plain food if I need to. Yeah. Like tonight was really simple, probably not everyone's favorite, but our bellies were filled. I would not serve that on a Sabbath, but because I am like maintaining the lower energy meals at different parts of the week, then when I want to have the extra energy, the extra creativity, maybe go a little crazy with some of the food that you guys like that I wouldn't normally cook, I will do that at other times. Yeah. But if you can't even eat a white flour cake on Sunday and give thanks to the Lord, you are in sin most likely. So that's what I mean is, so I don't know, maybe start recovering some of these rhythms of food life. Yeah,
feasting and fasting and special food and daily food, and they're going to be different, and just cultivating over all of it. Yeah. Thankfulness. Yeah, thankfulness. Yeah. Thank you, Lord, for this food. Yeah. Thanking God we pray regularly at the dinner table that God would give us thankful hearts for his many blessings to us, because there's 10 million ways that God has blessed us that would be easy to be anesthetized to by their familiarity, and they're miraculous. I mean, like, the fact that God made a world with bread in it is amazing. And so may we be thankful for that. So husbands, I think you get what we're talking about there. And also I would just add one more thing to that. Like, again, dinner time is hectic. Your husband might be getting home from work at dinner time. Taking the 10 seconds to smile at him when he gets in the door, to greet him kindly, to say, how are you doing? And not to be so task-oriented that you're like, I got to get dinner done. Do you know how the kids have been crazy? They're under my feet. But just, again, the people are what the house is for. So make sure that, again, Misty Winkler's phrase is so helpful. Organize your attitude. Organize your attitude and keep those priorities in order.
Yeah, I was actually reading my old vocation statements to the gals at my Simply Convivial group last month, and it was kind of funny because the habit I had been working on whenever I wrote this a couple years ago was not giving you any bad reports until after dinner time. And I think that's a good thing for some people.
That's a great thing to think about. I love that. Yeah. No, that's good. So last category here in hospitality in the kitchen is guests. And specifically, I'll give you an example. We sometimes have, we'll invite young ladies over who, maybe unmarried or just in different stages of life, or even down to, like, we've had teenage girls who have come alongside and helped Lexy. I think this is an important aspect of hospitality in the kitchen, is inviting other women in, particularly to learn skills together, and opening your kitchen for that.
I didn't know that's what you meant when you said this. Okay, that
that's
makes
what
more
I had
sense.
in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome.
Because, I mean, there are some fears or some pride, I think, that can keep women from doing that. Well, first of all, it's costly. Like, having other people's an interruption, and it can be like seen as a cost. So I think it's important to say, think about your church. Who could you invite? Especially you married ladies with kids, and are there any teenage girls that you could invite? Because it's special for them to go out of their house, come over, be invited in. Hey, do you want to learn how to bake bread? Do you want to learn how to preserve pressure can or some? And you could be giving a gift to a young lady that she'll carry into her marriage and the rest of her life, and that will end up feeding the immortal souls of her family.
Getting a small picture of your haphazard, cheerful
the
family
non-Instagram ability of it
might just be what makes her want to have more kids. You know, like that. I know that's what it was for me. When I think about why did I want to be a homemaker and why did I want to have so many kids, it's because I literally can remember seeing my parents' friends' houses that were messy, but filled with happy running around children. It wasn't because it was like some Martha Stewart home. It was just normal, happy mess. And I loved that. And I wanted that.
Yes.
So yeah, just don't let that be a hindrance. Like there's laundry, there's fingerprints on the wall. I do feel like I have a special place in my heart for singles though.
Yeah.
I feel like we totally get it wrong in the church when we call them singles because it's not true. They should be a part of households. And so that's kind of something that we have just worked to recover in different ways, is how can we invite the single gals into our family life, like in our regular family life, literally. Like, I don't know. We have a gal that comes over. She's come over for months now, once a week, if not more. And I'm not kidding you when I say she does whatever I'm doing. If I'm sitting in the grass looking through cookbooks with my kids, that's what she's doing. If I'm baking birthday cakes and throwing a party, that's what she's doing. And so it's weird because at first I kind of thought like, oh, this will be so productive, I guess. And what I have found out instead is that there's a unique sort of morale that is there. I don't know necessarily if we're more productive, but I don't really care anymore because I care about her as a person. My kids care about her. I care about her feeling like she's a part of a family. And that means I have to be okay with also some of the boring stuff that I think I was maybe embarrassed to invite her in on before.
Yeah. Like most people aren't coming in and going, oh, entertain me.
No.
I think that's what we feel. We feel this pressure, like you have to entertain somebody. Well, just invite them into what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're not like having to come up with special activities.
And I think too, like I think most people actually do have that expectation though.
Some people
that
definitely
it is
do.
Entertainment. And so you have to be willing to teach them like, no, this is different. This is sweeping and cleaning up, and we're preparing the next meal, and this person needs a bath. And that's what a lot of hospitality used to be, because we were so reliant upon one another to be working together. And so, so just think about like, and don't just say, okay, we're going to invite them for Sunday. Like, how can you invite them over on a regular basis for all sorts of things? It's just going to be a different sort of hospitality.
Yeah, and then your kitchen. So when we say hospitality in the kitchen, there's the hospitality of the dining table where you're inviting somebody over to eat and hang out and play chess and whatever, and then there's the hospitality of the kitchen. And this is similar to, I'd put this in the same category as like what our sons are going to be doing with Ben Garrett at Boniface Woodworking this summer, where they're going into his kitchen. I mean, they're going into his wood shop. They're going to be helping him and learning some skills, but literally, I mean, what he's going to be having these young guys do is, hey, sweep the sawdust, go clean the tool, go learn some, and it's like you're inviting somebody into your place of productivity, and inviting them to learn and to help and to participate. And there's a kind of give and take hospitality that you have to have a category for if we are to hand down these skills, not just from mother to daughter, but also within the community of the church. This is what Titus 2 is. When Paul tells Titus to, in the churches that Titus is going to plant on this island of Crete, that he's to teach the older women, to teach the younger women to be oikodespots, workers at home, literally, or household managers, and to be lovers of their husbands and children. And this is where that happens, especially when you have generations that didn't have 3 or 4 generations of Titus 2 happening. Even where you did, though, there's a richness. There's no 2 families that have the exact same set of skills and the exact same repertoire. So if you bring in this cross-pollination in kitchen hospitality, the overall community is enriched.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is this has happened on multiple occasions, not just with Sarah, but because we are all interested in different things, not only are they learning from me, but I'm learning so much from them too, because they're just interested in a slightly different thing. And so I don't even like terming it as like a loss cost benefit, because it's not even that. It's just like the organic life of giving to one another.
Yes.
You suddenly see, like the opener that we did.
It's exactly like what Rachel Jankovic was talking about in the cold open. You
suddenly realize that you're more filled up having given. It's weird.
And when you're looking at before you do the giving and you're thinking about doing the giving, you're like, I'm tired. I don't want the people to come over. I don't want to do this. It's going to be so hard. And then the people come over, and by the time they leave, 9 out of 10 times, you're energized.
Yeah.
You are helped by their company. You're cheerful. You're glad that they were there. In our culture, we're so good at isolating and watching Netflix that we've kind of lost some of this. So before we round out this episode, let's just briefly talk about, we've mentioned a few, but some of the enemies of hospitality. I mentioned of this kind of hospitality. I mentioned sluggishness, like that laziness that's not organized ahead of time, and so you're always playing catch up. There's always a fire alarm going off, and it's 10 minutes to dinner and you haven't thought about it. Like, there's a sluggishness that actually makes it easier to sin in being inhospitable, because you're out of time.
Yeah.
You don't have time to be patient, you feel like. So what are some other common weeds that need to be pulled in this area?
Selfishness. I think that's similar to not wanting to give yourself. You're trying to reserve part of your resources, or, whatever.
Yeah, hold yourself back.
Which I think pride is probably the same thing here too.
Yeah.
Pride can look different. Pride can either look like you want to be so authentic that you never want to put the laundry away for guests because you just want them to see it all hanging out.
We're authentic. We don't clean the toilets.
Loving your guests well by, again, being prepared and cleaning your toilets. And life is perfect. My house is not perfect by any means.
Our kids ate the windowsills. I mean, come on. They ate the windowsills.
But
I'm going to make a t-shirt of that.
There can be pride on the other side too, where it's like you have such high standards that you can only invite someone over once in that literal blue moon. Yeah. So purity spiraling too, we've talked about this a lot with having such high like food or health standards that you won't compromise, or like you only make, I don't know, brown, whole wheat, dry dinner rolls even when the guests come over. You won't like
there's that Instagram account of that lady who she does like skits about crunchy mom.
I don't know what it's called. It's really funny.
Oh no, the other mom's coming over. She's even crunchier than me. Oh, is that Candle Organic? They were out of my favorite lavender oil based soap. I better put away the Dawn dish soap before she gets here.
Which again, it's fine. Like if you're genuinely interested and you love that stuff, whatever.
We're pro standards.
Have at it. Yeah, totally. Have at it.
Totally pro standards.
Just don't let it get in the way of breaking fellowship.
Pro standards, pro excellence, pro understanding health, pro rejecting big pharma, big agriculture, big government, but anti-sin.
Yes, there you go. That's a
I
good
think
way
is the way of putting it. Anti-sin, and don't you dare break fellowship with normie people in your church who come over for dinner and they bring the dinner rolls they got at Walmart, and don't look down on them and be like,
and the thing is, if they see you loving what you're doing and being interested in it and still being willing to love them,
and cheerful,
they're going to be like, hey, why do you like that more?
That's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Can you tell me about that? But if you're going to be stingy and rude and impatient, they're not going to care if you made yummy einkorn waffles for dessert with raw cream, whipped cream.
They're going to be like,
They're not going to care. They're going to be
they
like,
were rude.
We don't want to be here anyways.
She was a rude einkorn waffle maker. She was anxious and harried and angry. She was an angry elf.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I think that's one of them. I mean, we just to shotgun a few out here. I mean, if you're just easily offended, you should be cultivating being hard to offend is a good skill. It's a spiritual discipline.
If you have people in your home regularly, there's going to be lots of occasion. Or children in your kitchen.
Yep. Things like, sometimes family quirks play in where I think this happens a lot with newly married couples. I've seen this in counseling, and where you'll have two family cultures coming together, and he's like, no, on Thanksgiving, we eat the canned cranberry sauce that has the shape of the can. That's what we eat. And the mom comes from the wife comes from a different culture. So there's some family quirks sometimes that can be sand in the gearbox of kitchen hospitality. These are just opportunities, though, to either walk in the spirit and not gratify the desires of the flesh, or to be selfish and rude and to be a jerk. And again, like, figure out how to be hard to offend, how to serve one another, and things will go smoothly whether the dinner burns or not. Like, that's the reality. So thanks for listening to this episode of Bright Hearth. If you haven't already, first of all, thank you. We just passed 100 patrons on Patreon. I think today, as we record, maybe an hour before we started recording. And, that's 100 people chipping in, even if it's just a cost of a cup of coffee at Starbucks every month to help us make this show possible. That is a huge help to us as we, have costs associated with making the show, including time. And so we appreciate that. And one of the benefits, there's two benefits that we give away that I highlight here on our Patreon channel, which is at patreon.com/brighthearth. We give a Feed the Patriarchy mug to all of our $10 and up patrons. And then also for any patron of any tier, we put out a weekly patron exclusive show that we typically record right after we record the main show. And we do book lists and things like that. But this week, when this episode comes out, we actually have a special episode of In the Kitchen, that patron exclusive show, that I recorded with my good friend Eric Kahn on Meatscapades 2022, which was a great journey that Dan and Eric and I undertook in a rented airport model Ford Transit van to drive in Nebraska, meet a brother who has a butcher shop, and buy literally many cows and pigs worth of meat and bring it back here to Utah. And on the road there, we brought along a headset recording rig, and we recorded an episode just for our Bright Hearth patrons about hormone health, testosterone, things like that. And honestly, it was a fascinating conversation. Eric knows a lot about this subject, and we're putting that out today on our patron. I just completely lost my mind for a second there. On our patron channel in the episode of In the Kitchen. So you can join and you gain access to that episode as well as all of our back episodes. There's 10 or 11 of them at this point.
Now that you're getting a different work laptop and I will have a laptop again, I've been telling people that I will finally be able to put together some annotated bibliographies because I'll have a laptop.
Yeah, so we'll be putting together annotated
more
bibliographies
and stuff now
on different subjects that we put out just through our Patreon channel there. We answer questions, all kinds of stuff there, and we appreciate that. Thank you. This episode was made possible by those patrons. Jump on board there and be sure to leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this podcast. But God bless you. May the Lord shine on your home. Bring it to fruitfulness from your attitude on outward this week.